Hospitality is not just for hotels. It's not just for restaurants. How does hospitality impact your business? Today's guest is an expert. Welcome to Decision Points. I'm Doug Hudson.
I'm Scott Wood.
Super excited to have Benji Homsey, co-founder of Duro Hospitality Group.
Thank you for having me. Honored to be here.
Welcome, Benji.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, you bet.
How'd y'all come up with Duro? What's that mean?
So Duro means hard.
Okay.
And in several languages, Italian, Spanish, etc. And there's this saying that great things are sometimes hard to get to, hard to grab, hard to find. And when we reflect back on our first restaurant, we really took a very difficult path. And so it's always kind of resonated with us.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a mantra in our organization. Like, we want to take the extra step. We want to do it a bit the hard way.
Yeah.
We want to, from the beginning, try to check all the boxes. And so it just kind of, as we were coming up with names, it just resonated. And our first concepts were Italian-ish, and so Duro just kind of made sense. And
what does Italian-ish mean? What does that mean?
So, our first restaurant, the Charles, we called it Italian-ish because it's not traditional Italian.
Yeah.
And it was our interpretation of what we loved about Italian cuisine.
Yep.
And then we took classic dishes from regions of Italy and said, okay, how will Texas people best enjoy this?
Yeah.
And if you think back, especially Dallas, like, we all grew up eating at steakhouses and Mexican, Tex-Mex, which is high acid, high heat, lots of bold flavors. And so we tried to influence some of our cuisine with those flavors to so that's the ish.
I love
Italian-ish.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, so tell us about the Swatch. I was commenting on that.
It's not working this moment. It works maybe 60% of the time.
So it's tells time twice a day.
Yeah, that's about right. Vintage Swatch, early 90s.
Let's go.
I saw it on Instagram somewhere, and it resembled one I had when I was a kid, and I was like, I've got to have that. So tracked it down. There's a vintage watch dealer on Etsy, and I paid 600 times probably what it was back then, but I really love it. I get more compliments about this watch
Isn't that crazy?
than any other watch I own, and I'm not a big watch collector by any means, but it's
It's awesome.
Does this vintage watch dealer on Etsy, is it all swatches?
It's all Swatch.
All Swatch.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. If you're interested,
So
I'll send it to you.
If you need a vintage
Send it to
swatch,
me.
that's where
I'll
you
send
go.
it to you.
I love a good Swatch.
And there's some fun, colorful ones if you're not afraid to be colorful.
Yeah. See, I may not have that kind of mojo to pull. As I told you right before we started, mine was all black with a white face.
Right.
So it was the most basic one they ever had and still had.
You got a little more game than that.
Yeah, I got a little more game.
I think you can pull it off.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Born and raised in Oklahoma City.
No way. Yeah. My wife's from Altus, Oklahoma.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Her family now lives in Oklahoma City.
Not far away. Yeah. All my family's still there. I come from a large Lebanese family. My mom and dad both 100% Lebanese. And
No way. Yeah.
so
They're all still there?
Everyone's still there. Somehow Oklahoma City has a pretty large Lebanese community.
Interesting,
So,
What high school did you go to?
I went to Cassidy.
Yeah, sure.
Went, preschool through. Traveled here to play St. Mark's and sports and
What'd you play?
ESD and Cistercian. I played soccer and golf.
Yeah.
And then played soccer in college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Where'd you go to school?
Went to TCU.
Oh, okay.
Horned Frog.
Yes.
Yeah. Sadly, they no longer have a men's team. About 6 or 7 years after we lost it to Title IX.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it was fun.
Do you still play a lot of golf?
I don't.
Yeah.
I love the sport.
Yeah.
But I just don't take the time.
Yeah, it's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time.
With work, and I've got 2 little ones. It's hard to carve out 6 hours and go play. I love the game though.
What age are your little ones, and what are they up to? What's their names?
I've got a 4.5-year-old son. His name's Enzo.
Enzo.
And then a just turned 2-year-old little girl, Benny.
Oh.
Okay.
and
Incredible.
they're a riot. She is going to run the family for sure. It is. She is a piece of work.
Enzo and Benny, two of the cutest dang names ever.
Thank
How do you
you.
spell Benny?
Benni, and we named her after my grandfather. So I was named after my grandfather. He was a Benjamin. I'm a Benjamin. He always went by Benny,
Okay.
and I always went by Benji. And he was always kind of viewed as the patriarch of the Lebanese community in Oklahoma City, and just
nice.
like this big personality.
No way.
And he has since passed, but so we just thought it was kind of a neat thing to honor him via her, and I think she's taking on his personality, which is a bit scary.
She's channeling, Benny. So was he a first generation?
He was second generation. So his parents immigrated over.
Okay.
Did they come straight to Oklahoma City?
They came through New York to a town called Depew outside Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon moved to Oklahoma City.
Was there a Lebanese community in?
There was a Lebanese community in Depew, some family members.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Not a lot of the Lebanese community originally were in Oklahoma City. They were in kind of towns around Oklahoma City. Like
Isn't that fascinating? Like from New York, how do they find that? I guess one family member, ends up.
Yeah.
And it just kind of drags everyone with them.
Yeah.
My mom's family started in Perryton, Texas, which is kind of Panhandle, and then moved to Winoka, which is kind of Panhandle of Oklahoma, and then found their way to Oklahoma City. So
Yeah. And do you have siblings?
I have two sisters, an older sister, Kristen, and a younger sister, Anna.
Okay.
They're both in Oklahoma City, and older sister's married with two older kids. I say older, they're, what are they, 12 and 14, and my younger sister has a 3-year-old.
So sports was a big part of your life.
Huge part. Yeah, big focus. I at an early age fell in love with soccer.
Okay.
And that was kind of my thing.
Yeah.
I think my sisters hated me just because my mom was driving me
drugged
around
to all those weekend tournaments
all the time.
Yeah.
And my older sister wasn't really into athletics. My younger sister kind of got into it a little bit, but it was really all about me and soccer.
Yeah.
And I played other sports as well. That was just the one I really gravitated towards.
And is that how you ended up at TCU? Just was
It is.
Yeah.
It was interesting because I hadn't applied there originally. I was applying to schools in the Northeast, and I was really focused on either this University, Lehigh, Lafayette, University of Richmond. I was also looking at Boston, and I was in a tournament in Fort Worth at Trinity Valley, and the TCU coach was there, grabbed me after the game, and invited me to come on a recruiting trip. Surprisingly, because I got red carded in that game,
What'd you do?
Well, so it was an error. I got a yellow card, and the ref had my name down as captain, and so he thought my name was down as a previous yellow card. So he gave me a yellow card and then a red card, and I kind of lost it and walked off the field. And my dad's trying to console me, and there's a table full of water, and I flipped the table, and probably right in front of the coach, but that's okay.
Come on, let's go.
The TCU coach was like, I like
Okay,
that.
There's my captain.
I want some of that right there. Yeah. That's what my team needs.
Were you a forward striker?
I played striker and left mid.
Okay, yeah.
Somehow left foot dominant, and although I'm right-handed, so I was always either striker, but most of the time ended up left mid.
Graduate TCU, and kind of what's next after that?
What did you study at TCU?
Yeah,
Finance with real estate emphasis.
Okay.
When I graduated from TCU, I had aspirations of moving to San Francisco and working in investment banking. My summer before my senior year, I interned at Montgomery Securities, which has since been purchased by Bank of America.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just fell in love with it. I mean, fell in love with the city, fell in love with the investment banking. It was just loved everything about it. And when I was there, I worked in corporate services, which managed, employee stock purchase plans. And
Okay.
so that was kind of a neat experience too. We were handling Yahoo's employee plan at that time, and there was a blackout period for the first like 30 days I was there, and then it lifted. And I remember the day before it lifted, the head of our department was like, go to sleep early tonight because it's going to be a
long
wild
day.
day.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah.
I mean, these 18-year-old kids calling in selling, you know, 5, 10, 15, $20 million worth of stock.
Wow.
And,
Unbelievable.
you know, that's back in
The day.
98.
Yeah.
you know?
Interesting.
So
When you started at TCU, was the path business and was the path investment banking, or did that evolve kind of while you were there and you sort of figured it out along the way?
that evolved. Business was definitely
Yeah.
a part of it. Finance was really, I think from day one, was my focus. And I really loved real estate. My dad is an attorney, but is also entrepreneurial and
Yep.
always did real estate on the side, some development and just investment properties. And so that was always in my mind. And then had this opportunity to go to intern at Montgomery Securities and fell in love with it.
Yeah.
So that was when I graduated. I spent 2-3 weeks in San Francisco interviewing with all the investment banks. And my last interview was with a startup telecom company that was based in Palo Alto. They basically offered me a job on the spot, but said, we need you in Dallas. And so the package was, you know, not much, you know, salary, but it was a ton of stock options.
Yeah, exactly.
And I reflect back on
Watched all these
my
young
experience.
guys.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
I was like, whoa.
I'm about to be that guy.
Like,
want some of that.
I'm gonna be a millionaire at the age of 22. So I took that job. I moved back to Dallas. Obviously, I knew a bunch of people in Dallas, being from TCU, and had some other Oklahoma City friends here. So did that, and I think I was like the 50th employee hired, second in Dallas. Fast forward 11 months, we were over 700 company-wide and over 70 in Dallas. We were spread out at all these kind of shared office spaces around, Regis office spaces around town. And we just moved into, knocked out office space at Lincoln Center at 635 in the tollway. And 2 weeks later, doors shut.
Was that in 98 or was that 2000?
That was 2001. So I graduated in December of 99.
Okay.
I took that job, started working there in March of 2000.
Yeah.
And it was basically about a year later. So early 2001.
Yeah. The market hit its high in March of 2000, and then it just,
That's when it,
started down from there. Yeah.
and our VC, Tyco, obviously no longer around.
Right.
They clawed back a big investment, and that's what basically shuttered the company.
All right. So what do you learn from that? And then what do you get into after that?
I think at a young age, it is extremely valuable to see something fall apart.
Yeah.
After that, in business, you watch this, and at least in the industry I was in, just great growth, great,
Looked like it was going to go forever.
looked like everything was going to go forever until 08 and 09, which I am sad, but also grateful to have experienced that as well as a business person. So I think it's for anyone in business, whether entrepreneurial or not, it's not always sunshine.
Correct.
And I think it is character building and extremely valuable to go through things like that. Since it was a startup company, everyone's wearing a lot of hats. And I was on the business development side. I went and bought a bunch of printers for this new office that we moved into. And when they shut the door, my expense checks weren't paid. So,
Oh no.
so I like the next day I took a dolly up there and
Got all my printers.
Called my dad. I was like, "Do you need printers at your office?" He said, "Actually, I do." I was like, "Good. I'm going to send you my credit card bill, so you pay that, and you've got some new printers."
Yeah.
All right. The entrepreneur, you figure out how to flip it. And so your dad was your first
He
customer.
was my first customer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you get into next?
So I'm here in Dallas. Obviously, this is a big real estate town.
Yeah.
And so with my finance and real estate degree, I started focusing on looking for a real estate job. I went and got my real estate license just to kill time and just for that knowledge. I didn't have any desire to go into residential. Really wanted to focus on commercial. And so started interviewing, and a good friend of mine who lived in Southern California at the time called, and we were just catching up. I was actually on my way to an interview, and she said, "Are you interviewing with my father?" I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." So her dad, big developer in Oklahoma City, had asked her about me, knew I lived here, and he was going to build Hotel Zaza Dallas. I didn't know him really. I'd met him maybe one time.
Yeah.
So I asked her to give me his number, and she did. I hung up. I called him. We met for the next 4 or 5 weeks in a row when he would be in town. And so he finally offered me a job. And as we're sitting here like this, and he does everything on 8.5 by 14 yellow legal pad.
Come on.
My offer letter was 4 pages in pencil on yellow legal pad.
4 pages?
Yeah.
What did it say?
Who knows? Lots of disclaimers.
You just knew it was a job and you needed a job.
Yeah, I was like, give me a job.
Incredible.
So, he said, listen, I shouldn't hire you. You have 0 construction experience, 0 hotel experience, but we'll give this a shot. If it doesn't work, no hard feelings.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go find someone else. So that was, I think my first day there was early June of maybe July of 2001.
Okay, so pause right there for a second. So when you left the telecom, when that thing shut down, was there ever a moment of, okay, now I'm going to go back to investment banking, or was that long, you'd moved on?
I'd moved on.
Okay.
I entertained the idea of maybe moving again. I entertained the idea of going to grad school.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Candidly.
Yeah.
And I liked Dallas.
Yeah.
In that year that I lived here.
Got settled and established. And
I made some great friends and just felt like this was a nice place for me to be. So no, that was a bit in the rearview mirror, and real estate felt like the right thing for me to focus on here in this market.
Yeah.
At that time. And when this opportunity presented itself, the idea of real estate development really resonated with me.
Yeah.
what was this gentleman's first name?
Charlie Givens.
Charlie. Okay. When you were talking to Charlie, was it more about just getting a job, or was it really about what he was going to do with Hotel Zaza?
It was all related to Hotel Zaza.
Okay.
He lives in Oklahoma City, and he needed eyes and ears watching the development, basically a project manager for the development of the hotel. So that's what we were talking about.
And was that his concept and his idea? Yeah.
It was he had a partner, technically equal equity partners, but Charlie was really the brainchild behind the idea. His partner was a banker, and they were just buddies. And so Charlie's one of the most brilliant, most creative guys I've ever met in my entire life.
Doug and I were talking a little bit about this before you got here, and just how, when Zaza landed in Dallas, how different, and just, it was a little bit risky, probably a lot risky.
Totally risky.
But it was incredibly different than anything Dallas had up to that point.
We were cautious.
Yeah.
But we also knew...
What do you mean by cautious?
So cautious from the standpoint of not believing our own bullshit.
Right.
Excuse my French.
That's English, by the way.
Thank you. So we're a bit cautious, but also recognize that nothing new had happened in Dallas in the hospitality space in quite a while. And you have the Mansion Hotel, which is beautiful and I adore, and you had the Crescent Hotel, and that was it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from the Adolphus or the Fairmont, but there was really nothing that had energy and soul.
Yeah.
And it was, so we just kind of set out to do it, and the name Zaza obviously conjures up, like, who knows what it conjures up, right?
But that's the whole mystery.
Exactly.
Right.
And you can it could kind of be anywhere.
Yeah.
It feels very international. You can say it in any language. Z to A to Z. This was kind of part of the play, right? And we wanted it to be a bit risque, almost an immediate success.
Yeah.
It was, I burned the candle at both ends for a very long time once it opened. And I would see guys that were, and obviously Dallas is heavily a business traveler market.
Right.
And even more so back then, I would see guys that I saw in the restaurant the night before literally checking out of the Crescent and wheeling their bags over to check into the hotel.
One of the things that we love, it's iconic. It is. You took a risk. It was, how much of this was Charlie's vision? Where was he inspired by it? Where do you're a creative. How much did you get to start to participate in that process? When he came to you, did he have the name? Did he have the whole? So walk us through some of those moments.
When he came to me, he had the name. He had hired the interior designer. We broke ground 2 months after he hired me.
Yep.
So not all the work was done.
Yeah.
And candidly, I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
I did come from a family that my mom was an interior designer.
Okay.
I have my older sister, I think, is one of the most stylish people I've ever met in my life. So that was, I think, innate to me. Like the idea of, I enjoyed design and enjoyed the creative process.
Did you know that about yourself at that time?
Kind of,
yeah.
Just from my upbringing.
Yeah.
I always liked clothes.
Yeah.
Always appreciated
style
and architecture.
I mean, look at his Swatch. I mean, come on.
No, the damn dude is sharp as can be. It's incredible.
Oh, gosh. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You are.
So it was interesting because he would include me in the decision making as we're picking fabrics and paint colors and light fixtures. I was a part of that whole process. And really kind of found myself there.
Yeah.
And loved it. Not only loved the construction part of it, but the interior design side of things. I really felt very comfortable there. And although we had an incredible interior designer, Duncan Miller Design, she did not like me to begin with, just because it was her and Charlie, and then he added me.
Yep.
And she knew I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I started giving my opinion, and we had it out one evening in front of him, and then we hugged, and everything was
good from that point forward.
Great from that point forward.
You earned her respect, at least that you would both of each other's respect. You stand up for your opinion was.
So you oversee all the construction and and getting it built, and then you stay on and you manage and run it, right?
One of the best things that happened, and one of the scariest but also best, we had a management company hired before I was hired.
Okay.
It was Olympus Hospitality. And about a month after we broke ground, Olympus was acquired by Vail Properties. And through this whole acquisition, our management agreement went away. And so Charlie and I were left alone as just developers. He had done one other hotel 35 years prior. I clearly had done nothing in that space.
Yeah.
So neither of us knew how to develop a hotel.
Yeah.
And there's just so many technical things.
Yeah.
And vendors that you need, and then operating the hotel is a whole different story, right? So it was a bit frightening, but also it was also one of the greatest things ever, because it forced me to really start studying hotels, not just the construction side, which was really my focus or supposed to be, but what are the things that this building needs in order for a hotel to successfully operate.
So y'all ended up having to manage it and run it.
Thankfully, no, at that point. So about 60 days prior to opening, we finally selected an operator that came in and operated the hotel.
Yep.
So at what point in your relationship with Charlie, so in the beginning, he gives you this 4-page handwritten legal pad, employment agreement. And then he basically says, we'll see, because you have no experience, but I'll give you a try. At what point in your relationship, how many months in, are you over the chasm and you guys are like good and he's happy and he believes in you and you've earned his trust?
Good question. I feel like it happened rather quickly.
Yeah.
I like to work.
Yeah.
I think I have a strong work ethic.
Yeah.
And in the construction world, that world starts very early in the morning.
Yep.
And so no matter what I did the night before, I was there 5:30, 6 a.m. right next to the old superintendent Roger, who was smoking Camel non-filters, back to back. I think I earned his respect by responding that way.
And working hard.
And just working hard.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, I clearly didn't know anything. And I buddied up to this guy, Roger, who was mean as you could imagine, but somehow he liked me because I was there every morning at 5:30.
You earned his respect.
And I earned his respect. And I would just be with him all day long and ask him every stupid question I could possibly come up with.
Yeah.
He saw you dig in and start to solve problems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
How long are you there?
my official last day as a Zaza employee was April 1st, 2020. My transition, so I was a project manager to begin with. We opened the hotel and I remain on as a kind of an owner's rep, liaison between operator and ownership, officed in the hotel. Then we developed condominiums next door to the hotel, and I oversaw that development and then also sold the condos. As we were finishing that project, we purchased the Warwick Hotel in Houston in 2005, I think March of 2005, operated it as is for a little bit. And then I basically moved to Houston. I didn't fully relocate, but I was there for 3 years, 6 days a week, running that renovation, which was a complete animal. Everything went wrong that could have gone wrong. Another incredible experience as a real estate developer. Just at every turn, there was, well, no, you can't do that. And that now means you have to re-sheetrock the entire building. So
little things like that.
Just little things.
And that's a factual statement.
Well, so what happened is we weren't gonna rewire the hotel, and the electrical inspector. This is at literally as we're mobilizing to start the renovation. It's like, you can't do that. You're gonna have to run all new mains and out to the rooms. All the walls were plaster, so you can't fish them down the wall. So day one was a $9 million change order. So
a little economic impact to that.
Great, thanks. As we're wrapping up the Houston renovation, we started our own management company called Z Resorts.
Is this you and Charlie? Is this you and
Charlie and his partner and me? We were all talking about the management company we had hired to open Dallas had done an incredible job, but they had grown somewhat off the success of Zaza. And I think that they were getting distracted with their growth, and we had really wonderful people in place. So it was just a good time for us to say,
we'll just take this.
We're going to take this. Charlie and I were heavily involved, daily involved in all decisions anyway. So it just made a lot of sense at that time to take it.
So at what point, I mean, obviously when Charlie hires you, he doesn't cut you in on 50% of the deal, right?
Sure.
Because it's a 4-page legal,
right.
Yellow,
and that is not included in those 4 pages.
Right. But obviously you earn his trust over time, and I'm sure you got economics at some point. And how did the conversation evolve for you guys to be true partners?
That is honestly the sad thing that happened, because it didn't happen fairly quickly. So I was named president of the management company in 2008. And obviously we all know what happened in 2008, 2009, and 2010, which again, I reflect back on being the leader of, we had 2 hotels open at the time, and kind of one of my first tasks was laying a bunch of people off, which is definitely character building. So, as we got through that and the hotel started doing well, I was extremely vocal about wanting equity and some sort of I believe I've proven my worth here, and I am. Everyone thinks I'm the owner. Right. It's not because I'm telling them that either, by the way. It's because of how I work, how I treat the staff, how I treat the guests. And so I was extremely vocal about it. And Charlie was open to it. His partner was not. And so there was this period of time in 2014 where the 2 partners, Charlie and his partner, were working through kind of executive level compensation plans. And I had my fingers crossed that there would be an equity component. They hired outside consultants, and every consultant that they hired told them to create equity plans for their executives. And they chose not to. They paid me, my comp package was great, but it had no equity in it. And it was really that time where my whole thought about Zaza being a career for me changed.
Yep.
Yeah. That was 2014.
2014. I had become really good friends with my now partner, Chaz Martin. He ran food and beverage for me at Dallas from 2010 to 2012. And then we became really good buddies.
Yep.
And so he and I started talking about it. He got out of the industry and he wanted back in. And so that's when the conversations about what ultimately ended up being the Charles started to happen. So
then you stayed on another 4 years, essentially.
I stayed on another 4 years. We had a development in Houston Memorial area, a new Zaza that I wanted to wrap that up, and then Austin that we had been working on since 2011.
Wow.
That didn't open until September of 2019. Oh
my gosh. Yeah.
The most difficult place to get anything done.
Well, Benji, I want to say one thing just to go back before we leave this topic. Like, I didn't know you that well, but just through YPO and whatnot, I always thought you were the owner, right? So I just give you that as a little bit of a gift. Just
I appreciate that.
Because, I always saw you as the guy and just kind of made the assumption, which is why I asked the question. Because I'm listening and I'm kind of like we're not getting to that point. So, but I always saw you as the owner and as the guy. And I think, all of our peers and people who know you and watch you build and run that place saw you the same way. So
I have zero regrets about my experience there. Yeah. And Charlie and I are still extremely close.
That's great.
And I would do anything for him and he would do anything for me. He was in a difficult position and things happen for a reason. And by the way, like this couldn't have happened any better for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
The experience I got from him, the mentorship I got from him, him trusting me, which he candidly probably shouldn't have, but as we've talked about, I proved myself. I appreciate that. It was a lot of hard work. I loved that place. There's still a soft spot in my heart for it.
What's really great about this part of the story is, we've all been there, is like the hardest things sometimes are the most defining. We went through a difficult season at True North about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was the hardest thing in my life professionally, but I'm so thankful for it. I wouldn't trade it for a minute because of what it taught me and what I learned. And, now the appreciation I have on the other side for, what's happened since then. Yeah,
we talk, these moments are significantly character building, and you have to slow down for a minute and kind of put things into perspective. And when you do, it was exciting. After I'd made peace with the idea that I wasn't going to get the equity that I thought I deserved and wanted, it was kind of like this big weight,
almost.
Correct.
Yeah.
lifted, and
now negative energy can go away, and then you chose to pursue that positive new energy.
Exactly.
So start to tell us about that. This is where
kind of 4 years in the making, it sounds like, right?
Yeah. You and Chaz, this is and tell us the formation of Duro and how's all this start to develop, and what are some key decision points, which is why we named what are some of those key decision points helping set that up? My
now wife and I, Chaz and his now ex-girlfriend were took a trip to Italy.
Yep.
And we started in, Positano, kind of moved through Capri, and then we were in Tuscany. And again, I mentioned Chaz got out of the industry, and he is built for hospitality.
Yeah.
Like he's the most unbelievably dynamic front of house person I've ever met in my life. If you guys have ever met him, he is just a wild character in a great way. He and I were, over probably our third bottle of wine or something, started talking about his desire to get back in the industry. Yep. And he said, let's do a restaurant together. I'll move home, because he was kind of traveling around with his new job. I'll move home. I'll run it. You stay at Zaza, and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
At the time, it was just one restaurant. There was no idea of creating this big hospitality company, and
I
was like, let's do one.
Yep.
and this will be a side hustle of sorts, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And so he moves back, and we trip along, right? I've got a big job at Zaza, so my focus can't be 100% or even 50% with this venture that we're doing. But we identify a piece of real estate, we buy it. You know, parking's a hard thing. We learned that the hard way. So we design like 3 or 4 different buildings and finally get to one. Then it takes us a while to raise the money. And so we bought the real estate in early 2015, and we didn't open the Charles until May of 2018. So it took us a while to get there. You know, there was a lot of evolving of the concept. We knew we wanted it Italian-ish, just because Dallas didn't really have any decent Italian restaurants at that time. It does now. And we did a lot of traveling, New York and LA and Miami, just kind of doing R&D, and then identified an incredible chef that now is really our director of ops and partner and everything. We've made him a partner and everything. We do. That's one thing I learned that was a great learning experience is like, I am not going to be shy to give equity away to the right people. And this guy proved himself very early on. So yeah, we opened the Charles in May of 2018. Chaz and Jay run it. Yeah. I am still deep at Hotel Zaza, in the middle of developing Zaza Austin. So I'm basically living in Austin at this time. Chaz and I are talking every night, though. You know, every day, every night. Like I had a pretty nasty non-compete at Zaza, so I didn't want to disrupt that either. So my interest in the restaurant my parents held my interest in the restaurant, and I had interest in the real estate as a landlord, and then otherwise I was technically not involved in the restaurant. But it was quickly well received, and we were a bit surprised. We knew it was going to be good. It's in an odd location, even odder then.
Not as much now.
In 18, I mean, that area was still kind of evolving, and you know,
and it's still very much evolving. Nick Badavinas, who you know has Town Hearth, we knew he was going across the street, and that gave us some. That helps. They gave us some, you know, that helped quite a bit actually. It was. He was kind of considered the best restaurateur in town, and we knew if we could just draft off of his activity that we would probably do fine. And we did better than fine. It was incredible to watch.
Tell me really quickly, the story behind Jay, because I've heard it. And when you mentioned Jay, I'm like, okay, I've heard Jay's story before. It's an interesting story, right?
Jay kind of started his career in Dallas at the Mansion under Dean and then Bruno. He then left and spent the longest tenure of his career with Stephen Piles. So Stephen was our chef at Zaza, or our concepting chef when he had sold Star Canyon, and Jay went and opened Stephen Piles' restaurant on Ross, and was with Stephen all the way through opening Florist Street. The interesting thing about how we got to Jay, initially we went after his wife. So his wife was the chef at the Grape, the executive chef at the Grape, and she was kind of known in the industry as the best pasta maker in town. And we knew we wanted killer pasta. So we went after her first, and she kindly declined and just said, "Listen, I'm fine where I'm at, but you should talk to my husband. He'd be interested." And so Chaz and him met, and he'll tell this story better, but they could not be more polar opposite. Jay tells me this, you know, he tells us all this, but after that first meeting, he went home, he's like, "That guy, I'm going to go work for that insane animal?" He's like, "Absolutely not."
Awesome.
And then he remembers having this moment of clarity. He's like, "Well, this guy is exactly what I'm not." And if I can just be patient enough with all the nuances that he brings, and he can be patient with all the nuances that I bring, then this actually could work. And
we
so,
talk about that all the time. It's just, when you have a couple of co-founders, or you have a couple of partners, or even a, visionary and an integrator or president and COO, like this tension of, the different sets of skills, and one wanting to go fast and one wanting to make everything's all buttoned up, and just finding this pacing that really works well for the team. And you ultimately get a better outcome if you're in there tussling and fighting through some of these things, because both offer really unique perspectives, and you end up getting a better product when it all comes out.
it was beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
And to your point, not without its tense moments. And,
Correct.
as we're, Chaz is overloading the reservation book, and Jay is like, "What in the hell are you doing? You're gonna crater this business tonight." But again, it all worked out, and it's part of what the energy of that room and the hustle and bustle and that hectic environment was well received. And so Jay is an operational dynamo. Just like I've honestly never seen anything like it. He just, we all refer to him as the Terminator too. He gets shot and like immediately regenerates and gets stronger and moves on. Yeah. We knew, and he knew, like he was pushing us to grow, and he and Chaz alone did not have the bandwidth, and it was really took me leaving Zaza to unlock the idea of growing. But Jay was vocal about not wanting to be in the kitchen, and we didn't want him there because he's a great chef, and he continues to have oversight of our culinary program along with our director of culinary. But his value is so much greater running the business. And Chaz, Jay, and I all run the business, but Jay is doing kind of the heavy lift, allowing Chaz and I to focus on growing the company.
So how many employees today overall? And how many restaurants, how many employees?
We have 4 restaurants. The Charles Sister was next. El Carlos was after that, and then Mr. Charles. As we finished Sister, we also opened up Cafe Duro, which is next door to Sister. And then we have a little tiny hotel called Casa Duro that's on top of Sister. That's kind of a fun little hotel. We have 270-ish employees today. We'll open Fort Worth at the end of the year. That'll add another 60 or 70 employees.
And El Carlos is down near the Charles, right? It's
right down the street.
Corner, yeah. So I had dinner there with the Gelbox a couple of weeks ago.
How was it?
It was amazing. It was an amazing experience.
Oh, that's great to hear.
And what I love is, and I'm sure this was very intentional, the waitress, the server, got each of our names, and then every time she came to the table and addressed one of us, she'd say, "Okay, Doug, here's your cocktail," or "Benji, here's your appetizer," or whatever.
Great.
Like, it was just, and it wasn't overdone, but it was super intentional. And I was like, and I don't know if that was just her or if that's the restaurant, but we were like, okay, this is really good, and the food was amazing.
The interaction at the table, the service is the difference maker, right? It's none of this is easy.
Yeah.
This industry is so difficult. The margins are so tight. But for us, it's like we love the concept. We feel like that's something we can do very easily. Two of our partners are great interior designers, Corbin and Ross C. And so from a design standpoint, we get that pretty easily. And all that comes together really nicely. And the food also is, specifically at El Carlos, was a little more complex just because we leaned heavily away from Tex-Mex.
Yeah.
And it is truly a Mexico City, Oaxacan kind of inspired.
We did the tasting menu.
It
was insane.
It's my favorite in our portfolio.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think the food is just spectacular, and it's
great.
different. It's not what you would expect, and it has taken time to educate our customers about it, because anyone in Dallas hears Mexican and they immediately think chips, queso, enchiladas, right?
Yes, and maybe there's a fancy steak on there. But that's about it.
But that's about it.
What are some secret sauces? What makes hospitality That is your all's trade. You just said it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys preach every day to the team? What makes Duro Hospitality different?
Great question, and that can go. I mean, we could talk for hours about that.
Go wherever you want.
I'll try to distill it down to one thing that I think. I wouldn't say we do different, but it's something that we stay very, very focused on. I mean, one, I'll back up. We have a director of training and culture. That's all she does. She focuses on taking care of our team, making sure they have all the tools. And so I think from a base level, like making sure we always have steak knives, making sure that you're not having to wash rocks glasses in the sink because we're cutting costs that month and we'll buy glasses the next month. I mean, I think just the basic nature of making sure everyone front of the house has the tools they need to be successful. That at the base is, I think, what any restaurateur should do, and most don't.
You want your servers in the front of the house to be totally focused on their guests, right? And if in the back of your mind you're worried that, okay, we don't have any steak knives, or we don't have enough, and they're back there washing them, and when's it going to come out, or that creates an anxiousness on the front of the house, which then takes away from their ability to be intentional and focused with their guests. And I think you can translate that to almost any business.
Of course.
We think about that the same way here, is just we want to remove all of the stuff that the wealth advisors have to worry about so that they can just be completely dialed in on our client. So I love your answer.
Even from like managing the business for our managers, we have a great director of finance, and he's got another guy. And so like we want them to understand the business, but we don't want them to focus on, we don't want them to be on a computer during service, entering in invoices and stuff. Like just send them to the director of finance and they'll take care of it. We want 100% focus on team and guest
experience.
And so aside from that, we have an incredible training program. The thing that I think that we talk a lot about is this term called icing. If you're a great server, you're doing all the technical things right? You know the menu, you're explaining it the right way. They're asking for names, they're giving the guest your name, like all those things should happen. But it's the icing that I think separates the experience from great to exemplary, right? I'm going to go tell all my friends about this experience. And it could be a little thing like, you're wearing dark pants, I'm going to get you a black napkin instead of a white napkin. Pulling out chairs for females. Early on, this server we had, Kevin, he had a guest come in who was dairy and gluten intolerant, and we didn't have any desserts on the menu that fit that bill. And so he went back to our chef Jay at the time, and Jay was basically like, "No, like it's Saturday night, we're doing 300 covers. Get out of my face. I'm sorry." So we have a 7-Eleven, a nice 7-Eleven next door. He walks to 7-Eleven, he grabs a banana, caramelizes sugar over it, like with a blowtorch. The server, puts it in this nice presentation and takes it to the guest. So that's a great example to 100%. Me of icing. And that person now, like, we own that person for life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's those things we talk a lot about.
Give you another quick example. When we were there the other night, we ordered a bottle of wine, and as the somm finished opening the wine and pouring us all a glass, he looked at each one of us and he said, "I'm really glad y'all are with us tonight." I mean, it was so sincere.
Eye contact.
It was so like, and he walked off and we all looked at each other and we were like, wow. I mean, it made us all feel really special,
That's great.
So that was the icing.
Yeah. Last night I read the overnight report this morning, and at Mr. Charles, we had a difficult guest who didn't like aquapana. Didn't think it was clean enough water and wanted Fiji. We don't carry Fiji. Our manager walked out, went across the street, grabbed a bottle of Fiji, brought it back, and served this guest Fiji.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, you should never say no. You got to you always look for the solution, but then also look for things like, without being prompted by the guest, to just do things that that elevate the experience.
The unexpected is where you catch people off guard with that service. That was unexpected. The eye contact, the unexpected to go get to the bananas. It's incredible. Keep talking about your training program.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that.
The Charles was the Chaz show,
Right.
and it was very intentionally supposed to be that. And you know, I could go on and on about him too, but there was so much about his personality that was infectious to the rest of the team that then ended up at the table in a very positive and great way.
Yep.
And so when I came over full time, a big part of our conversation around growth was we have to pull you out because it can't be
about
It's
you.
not reproducible.
Can't be the Chaz show at the Sister. It can't be the Chaz show at El Carlos. Like, you're only one man.
Right.
So how do we create a training program that pulls the Chaz out of you and puts it into a program that we can actually teach and train towards?
How did that conversation go with Chaz?
We had received a lot of interest from real estate developers about us growing, and Chaz and I are talking every day, and I was planning my exit.
Right.
I just needed to finish Austin, get it open, and then I was gonna leave sometime in early 2020, and COVID actually was, I hate to say this was a great thing for us and my family. And
There were silver linings in the tragedy and the chaos, 100%.
Absolutely. And so when we sat down, restaurants closed.
Yep.
Which was, again, fortunately, we were in an incredible economic place. Like, we had plenty of money in the bank, allowed us to slow down and really be thoughtful about how we structure it, how we think about it, what our growth should look like. And one of the first topics of conversation was, how do we pull you out of this? And he wanted to be pulled out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it gets exhausting for him. You know, at a point in time, it's more than any one person can handle.
It is. Yeah. I mean, he was there 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we were open 6 nights a week.
Yep.
So it was getting to the point. The restaurant was super successful. We had hired a GM that really reported to him, but Chaz was still very much there. And so he was ready for the conversation.
Yep.
and knew and was smart enough to realize that it's impossible to go create the Chaz show over and over and over again. But the intentionality of creating a training program that took elements of what Chaz had done so well to train the team. The icing is something that he's really, really good at. The personality, the touching tables and saying, you know, so happy to have you here. My name's Chaz. Here's my card. You call me anytime you need. Right? Yep. Just those little interactions with guests have all we've found a way to put it into our program.
I love that. Systematizing, processing a personality trait. So how do we replicate Chaz? You're not the only person who can be friendly how do you really, that's a key to scale. All of us can walk across the street and get hit by a bus. That principle needs to live way past that. And you guys are clearly institutionalizing those gifts and those assets.
And we were fortunate. So Julia Fleming, who's our director of training and culture, she helped open the Charles and helped Chaz really put proper training program in place at that point. That at an early stage touched on some of this, wasn't near as formalized as it is today. We then, as we started talking about growth, and then we signed a lease to do Sister, signed a lease to do Mr. Charles, and bought the real estate where El Carlos is currently. We knew we wanted someone to run the program.
Yeah.
And so we called Julia, and she had just left she was running training for Omni, and she has a young child, and that was too much. And so anyway, we were fortunate enough to get her back. So she was part of the original team that made the Charles successful, and she knew she knew Chaz intimately, and knew what we wanted as a company. She knew how we wanted our guests to experience dining in one of our restaurants as intimately as anyone else did. And so she's an incredible asset and has really been the person that has helped tie a bow around that program.
Yep. What does growth look like for you all? How do you think about growth? What are some of the matrices that you all discuss? This think tank is how many people? I know is it 4 of you?
So the original founders were 4.
Okay.
It was myself, Chaz, and then Corbin and Ross C. And so
Okay.
Corbin and Ross are interior designers.
Okay.
They have their own design firm called C's Design that started in Oklahoma City, and then they have an office here in Dallas. So they're small partners in the hospitality company. They, from a think tank with them, it's more macro.
Sure.
Like we have a new project, we think about concept and things like that. As far as running the business, it's myself, Chaz, and Jay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the 3 of us talk about everything.
Yep.
And sometimes that process, it slows things down a little bit.
Sure.
But I think we make the right decision 98% of the time. And we have very spirited conversations about it, and we don't always all agree, but we, I think, almost always come to the right decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, the three of us are really making all the decisions. From a growth perspective, Jay has been someone really pushing the envelope. And you know, when I came over from Zaza, we had one restaurant, the Charles, that was closed. So I left a failing industry in lodging to come to the restaurant industry that was
Shut
not
down.
even open. And so I mean, growth was a big part of the conversation then.
Yep.
Just because it's that one restaurant's not going to feed all
three
these
of you.
mouths.
Yeah.
So, you know, today we're trying to slow down a little bit. You know, we opened 4 concepts in 3 years, 5 if you include Casa Duro. And we'll open Fort Worth at the end of this year. We have control of the old Homewood space on Oaklawn that will be sometime probably late second quarter next year. And then we're negotiating another lease that could be end of next year or early the following. We're trying to tap the brakes a bit, and would like to focus on larger stuff. I want to do a hotel.
You do? Yeah.
We would like to explore some bigger projects and not just continue to do one-off restaurants.
The one-off restaurants have done okay though.
They've done great.
Yeah.
They've done great. We are blessed.
Yeah.
We have been, you know, when I look, and I'm not like, there are great restaurateurs in this market, and there have been incredible restaurateurs that have come to this market from New York, Chicago, and the restaurant scene here has become really interesting. And I like to think that we're part of the reason why other groups have shown interest here.
Yeah.
Like we've helped to raise the bar, I believe. And we want to continue to do that. And it's, you know, people ask us, especially when like Carbone opened in the design district, are you guys worried about that for the Charles? And it's quite the opposite.
Absolutely.
It is, you know, it's a very different concept, but it just brings more people to the
More
district.
eyeballs.
And that's how we view competition.
Yeah.
It can be
If you
very
believe in
healthy.
what you do, it's
It's a validation of what you're doing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I have a couple questions.
Go.
Is that okay?
No.
I have a couple questions. So on the growth question, I have this sort of sense of you got to strike while the iron's hot, right? Like, so you guys are right now, I mean, I would say, you know, popular, however you want to characterize it, but super popular, top of your game. Everybody's aware, you know, who pays attention to the restaurants and the success and just the energy. And so, you know, when you think about growth, it's like, do you guys think that, okay, we got this window that we need to capitalize on and take advantage of all this momentum? Or do you think about it more from a, you know what, we're playing this long game. We're going to be doing this for, you know, another 10, 20 years. And so there's no hurry. We can go at pace. How do you think about kind of those two opposing views on growth?
Good question. I mean, I think there's been a lot of momentum just in this market specifically.
Yeah.
Since really even rewind to like 2012, right? There's been massive amount of growth in this market since then. And then 2020 happens, which is this, this temporary blip. And then everything takes off like a rocket ship again. So there's been just a lot of just innate momentum in this market. And then for us, there's been an incredible amount of momentum. We've been blessed. The support, the feedback from the media, from our customer base has been incredible. And there is some thought of, like, we've got all this momentum. Let's keep the foot on the gas and keep going. I'll relate this to the Homewood restaurant. We got control of Homewood not too long after, kind of the end of last year. And initially we're going to do it before Fort Worth. And then decided, like, wait, I think maybe Dallas needs a break from us.
Yeah.
And we need to focus on running restaurants. And we also need to respect Fort Worth. Like, we need to give Fort Worth everything we have, and give Fort Worth their own moment. And that's also why we chose a new concept for Fort Worth. We could have brought Sister. We could have brought.
Is that public? If you said that, I missed it. What concept are you opening in Fort Worth, or is that public?
It's called the Chumley House.
Okay.
So conceptually, it is most similar to Mr. Charles. Okay. But with a little more of an English vibe to it. Okay. It'll be our most masculine design restaurant. So lots of stained grade wood, but
downtown, or
it is in the Crescent Hotel development. So Crescent Hotel, we're in the bottom of the office tower.
Yep. Great.
So great location.
Our office is across the street from there.
Oh,
so,
nice. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I love that area. Yeah. And with the Crescent and the new Auberge Hotel that's opened up, the Bowie House. Yeah. It's a really cool little district.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. And but keep going on that.
Sure. So we intentionally were like, let's pause for a minute in Dallas. And like, there are other deals we could have done. I mean, we're blessed. We're getting calls weekly from people wanting us to do restaurants in their developments, or they've got space they want to lease. And we wanted to take a break for a minute in Dallas specifically. We are in this for the long game. I think Dallas is here to stay, and we haven't even seen like this growth is. You guys probably know it better than I do. It is like with Goldman Sachs, all these corporate massive developments that are happening in just call it DFW.
Yes,
there is so much growth for us as a company that can happen in Fort Worth, South Lake, Frisco, Plano. Like, there's so much we can do
just right here
that it's like, I don't think we have to hurry up.
Yeah.
And as we start talking about larger projects, that doesn't mean we'll shut the engine off of growing the restaurant side of things, but we may choose to like scale Sister and do 4 or 5 Sisters throughout DFW, which it could easily support.
So then the next questions, I said there were 2 questions. The next question is related, but then, long term, how do you guys think about monetizing what you've built?
So the part of why we want to scale a brand is, there's a restaurant group out of Arizona that has done this really well, Fox Restaurant Group, that has basically incubated these really cool concepts, grown them to a point. They've now been purchased by Cheesecake Factory in total. Yeah. But I think that's probably a natural way for us to go monetize. Yeah. A portion of our business is to scale something like Sister and either get private equity to come in and we roll with them for some point and grow it from 5 to 15 and then try to create another capital event at that point. So
that's great.
Aside from that, we don't have any great ideas about monetizing the business. It's a great cash flow business if you're successful, and we're seeing that now. I think these larger projects, there's like, if we go to a hotel, there are many ways you can go create capital events there via refi, recap, et cetera. So I think there's more opportunities there as we talk about that kind of growth.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you
the
guys.
transition.
See how I
was
had to
fun.
get those last two questions in before he wrapped it up.
Before
or I
he
was
turned
gonna
it
be
off?
done. Yeah.
Well, because we could go on for a long, long time. This needs to continue over some beverages
Please.
and
Yeah.
some food.
Let's do that for sure.
We picked the wrong location for this for
Yeah,
sure.
we could have done
did.
an offsite.
Yeah.
Well, Decision Points is going on tour.
We're going on the road.
And
That's
we're going
right.
to start with about 4 or 5 restaurants. And maybe we'll do a debut at the Chumley in Fort Worth
Oh, that'd be fun.
and
Yeah.
invite our Fort Worth team to join us.
Yeah, that'd be
So,
fun.
Yeah, let's do that. And I'll bring Chaz. He's not shy in front of a camera.
come on, Chaz. Chaz, you bring it on.
I mentioned earlier I was at the Byron Nelson all last week,
Yeah.
and I saw Chaz at the Celebrity Pro-Am on Tuesday at Trinity Forest, and he was having a great time.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So he got paired in a group with Thomas Keller.
Yes, that's
oh my
right.
gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which he initially he got invited to do this.
Yeah.
And
Chaz was one of our celebrities.
he
Yeah.
was one of the celebrities.
Yeah.
And,
No way.
and Chaz was like, "You call Benji. He'll play." He goes, "Well, you're going to get paired with Thomas Keller." He's like, "Never mind. I'm gonna figure out how to play golf again," because he hadn't picked up a stick
Thomas
in
Keller
a long time.
plays every year.
Oh, yeah.
he's played in this, and he
Has
plays
he?
in the Celebrity, and then he plays again on Wednesday in the Gold Pro-Am.
He brings his own caddy with him.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
And I just happened to be on kind of the number 1 and number 10 tee box when they were coming through the turn, and so it was fun to watch.
Chaz brought 3 bottles of white Burgundy to share in his group, and that was kind of his entry into trying to engage
So-
with TK.
Yeah.
So we like golf, so we're going to invite you to play golf, and I can't wait to see what you bring. We're going to get you back on the golf course.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Really enjoyed it.
You all continue to crush it, and thank you for joining us on Decision Points. Have a great rest of
Thank
your
you.
day.
Appreciate it.